the sharks, namely the gray whites, or the older ones, the more experienced ones, um, we sort of been through everything and through generations of coaches, but people who have administrated uh, governing bodies, administrated local associations. And, the real constant is the coach. And here we are, some of you still actively coaching, but the rest of us mentoring. And hell, when I went into your site and I looked at all the stuff you've written, uh, it's stuff I've written at about the same era that you got into it. And here we are talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, are we talking to ourselves? So people, on the weekend, I was at an induction, Hall of Fame induction with Jerome McGinley was there and Dave King, and the older people receiving are all familiar with the Sharks and compliment me on it. And I made the statement that, well, I think it's just a bunch of older guys that get to talk about hockey. And there's a satisfaction in being able to talk about hockey, but the wheel keeps spinning in terms of trying to get more people at a younger age to buy in or catch on to things. And I find they're too busy working at day jobs. Taking clinics are important, but they interfere with their busy schedules. So I don't know, guys. Is there an answer? Is there a solution? Is the technological age going to help or hinder? Any thoughts on that? Like,
what are you trying to find a solution to?
What's that, Tom?
What are you trying to find a solution to?
Well, I'm trying to find some productivity to what we're doing, not just for ourselves and the immediate team we're working with, but the audience.
You're making podcasts.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, that's kind of what people do now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't force people to listen.
No, you never can. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, and I go on what I call hits. And Tom, you've got the hit record for sure with your site. And I wonder if you could comment on the one that has gotten the most hits related to L.
Oh, the most hits I guess they're hits that I've ever got was 95,000, which is like multiple more than any other one. And it's just Al Andrews holding our coaching manual up. And he's so well known that, it was unbelievable. Like if I post something that pros did or something, I get maybe 1,000 to 2,000 hits. And, with youth hockey under 1,000 usually, but that one there was 95,000.
Wow.
But my site that I've had going forever, my ABC site, that's got 55 million. So, but that's been around a long time.
Hal, have you any experience with that kind of stuff? Like, that's what I mean about today's age and how to communicate. And is it hit and miss, or is there any way of enhancing the effectiveness of it?
I don't really know. If we go back 20 years, I did that newsletter that all those articles were part of, and that went out to about 65,000 people or email addresses, which was virtually every family that registered for youth hockey in Minnesota. Plus it spread into Canada and into Europe. And, you know, the most popular one I ever wrote was Cold Dry Hands, How Short Is Your Bench? Which came from the fact that when you go through the handshake line at the end, the kids with the cold, dry hands didn't play. The kids with the sweaty hands were in the game. And it was, you know, it's about don't short your bench in youth hockey. I mean, for whatever reason. And that's actually posted up, I don't know if it still is, was posted in arenas all over Minnesota and in Canada, a couple rinks up there. But I think you're right, Wally. I think coaches who are volunteers, most of them are, I mean, we have all the requirements in the US, and I'm sure you have it in Canada, of, you know, you've got your coach education levels 1 through 5, and you have to progress through, and each level is, I mean, you know, there's maybe 10, 15 hours of time sitting in front of a computer and or going to the clinic, which is an all-day event. When you get up to the level 4s, it's a 2.5 day event in person. So you have to travel to it. And in the past, if you were a level 4 or you were a level 5, you were grandfathered in from having to do any more, but now they've changed that. And now you have to go in and take refresher courses. Thankfully, I'm old enough, so I'm grandfathered in where I never have to do that again. But now we have safe sport. You have to do that. You got concussion training. You have to do that. You've got, and then age level modules. So if you're going to coach U15 or 14 or whatever, you've got to do that age module. And some guys are coaching, you know, one kid there, they're coaching another kid at squirt, so they have to do the squirt module too. I mean, the amount of time you have to spend just to step on the ice at the beginning of the season, I think it keeps people from doing it. We have a lot of really good people here in Minnesota that are skills instructors that would be great coaches, team coaches, but they just aren't going to do that. They're not going to spend all the time to do all that stuff. Oh, then you have to do a background check, and you have to pay for that. You have to pay for all this stuff too. It's not free. And
they pay us back for that one.
Huh?
We get it, and then they send you the money back, or else they'll pay for that police thing.
Yeah, I mean, some programs might pay you back for it. I don't know. And so it takes quite a bit of time. I mean, just for myself to, you know, get current for this year, I think I spent, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours one night. And, you know, and I don't really have any skin in the game. I don't have any kids I'm chasing around or anything. So I think that's a problem. You know, Tom's stuff is awesome. You know, coaches love to see drills. They just love them for some. They always have.
They love the diagrams.
They love the diagrams, right?
I put the diagrams in. They like them better than the description and video and all this kind of stuff. Like when I put in last week, has 8,500 views on it. It's on situation drills.
Yeah, but will they use them?
Who's to know?
Who is to know? Well, it's a good thing they're looking at it though, because you get ideas and, you know, you do that. But so if you think about, you know, great coaches, or if you think about, there's a guy in the Twin Cities called Rob Stauber. He coached the women's Olympic team that won the gold, I think, over in, was it Japan or wherever they had it. He was a goalie from the University of Minnesota. He played for the Kings, I guess, and he runs a goalie training program here in Twin Cities. He's got a warehouse. He's got a little indoor. He's got some artificial ice in there, and he's a great guy. And we have these conversations about the fact that he's got other trainers, but they're not him. How do you replicate somebody who's had a high level of experience and a lot of success, and they're trying to operate a business and offer the same thing? And there's just no way to do it. And then, as we were talking last week, in my opinion, the business of hockey is huge now, and the buyers have a hard time differentiating between programs. What are good programs and what are not so good programs? And I'm not sure there is a way to do it. And if you consider that 98.5% never of their customers never get very far with or without the training.
Well, Hal, last week, just before we played, I watched this group there's about 4 or 5 defensemen on there with 2 coaches.
Yeah.
They're probably U18 because they had the cages.
Yep.
And I was trying to get a video clip. I finally got one. I had to take about 10 times, just a really simple drill. The D went behind the net,
Yep.
wrapped and threw a long pass up to the far blue line to the coach.
Yep.
And either the pass was awful or the coach missed the pass.
Yeah.
And then they go the other way. So they did it both. And then they came up and got a pass and took a shot. So it was a really simple drill.
Yeah.
But I had to take it probably 10 times before this simple drill, these kids could do it properly. It was unbelievable. I think my girls could have done it 20 times better. But, these guys are charging a lot of money for that, eh?
Yeah. And then if you separate the roles of as a coach, if you're an assistant coach and you're coaching the defenseman, you're coaching the D. If you're the forward coach or the special teams coach, you're coaching that. But the head coach is the glue that should be holding it all together. And the head coach is the one that drives the culture. The head coach is the one that, makes all the major decisions. And that's a very different job than being an assistant coach. And I've almost always been a head coach, and I think I'm pretty good at that. I can be an assistant coach, but I'm not in my opinion, I don't think I'm as good at that. And I've seen a lot of guys that move from assistant roles to head job, and they fail very quickly because they don't understand what it takes, what the role of the head coach is versus an assistant or a skills coach. Being a skills coach is relatively easy. Because you don't have a team, you don't have the parents, you don't have all the stuff, you don't have all of the multiple interests that you have to balance on the team. And if you're not very good at that, then you're going to have your team's not going to be very successful. This is just my opinion only. But
I got an opinion on that. I don't think it's easy to be a skills coach. You acquire the ability to be a skills coach, and you get better over time. And sometimes I believe today's coaches aren't educated at teaching skills,
right,
individual skills, and individual tactical skills.
Yep.
Because our era of coach development, we were taught that. And I think in terms of the audience out there, I'm sort of bypassing the ability to teach one-on-one because it takes expertise, it takes experience. And I'm really now leaning to Tom's concept and Craig Gruvak's concept, and this is generalizing, letting the game teach.
Yep.
just play situations and let them make decisions. Their skills are going to be what they are, but they're going to get better based on failure and how they adapt. And it's really nice if you could point out a little cue point here and a cue point there. But it takes so much time and energy, and that's why people make money on that, but it becomes very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sent a link out to everybody. I don't know if you could open it. It's on Instagram. How ridiculous skills are when you can't use them. So it was really a good Instagram account. There's an older fella and a younger fella who expound about these things. And I got it sent to me by a parent who said this is the case. Everybody's investing money on individual skill work. And Tom, you commented on these fancy guys, and one guy with having a puck, 2 sticks, and the puck on each stick kind of thing. And they can't play the game. So I really, I don't want to ignore them. They're that important. The teams you work with, because you're their hell, you're going to attend to it. But we're not going to be there.
Right.
Now, Peter, you're working in an association, basically doing what we've done for years, and maybe you've done for fewer years, but you're doing. It's banging the head against the wall. What's working? Is there anything that's you feel is having an impact that works well for them?
Well, yeah, you have in Canada, and I think probably even Hal being where you are in Minnesota, I think you have an advantage to some degree as far as the pool of coaches that you're able to pull from, because there's a lot of former pros that are in areas, and honestly, the area where that's growing the most in the States is actually Florida. I'm in discussion with a friend who's living down there, and there's name after name after name down there. His kid was in a tournament last week, just some summer fun stuff they were doing. He said, then Roberto Luongo's on the other bench because his kid's playing. So